Hello friends, my name is Magmetude, and today I'm not going to actually be playing a game. So, it's not a vlog. Vlog, that's a fun word. Vlog. So, hold on, I'm going to take these off. How do you like my glasses and hat and headphones? My glasses, hat, headphones, man. No, okay. I don't even need this one. I think they're cool, so I had them just to show them off because I wanted to show them off, and well, there's nothing wrong with that. So as many of you are probably watching this, the few subscribers I have, but I don't care as long as this is the purpose of this video is. Oh gosh, my mouth is so dry. The purpose of this video isn't for exactly to make you laugh. So I'm trying to get more into doing YouTube and stuff like that. So, oh yikes, that's scary. Just gonna. My recording software is bugging out of me. I'm gonna minimize you. Just make you go away. Okay, I'm gonna have to add you in after. Gosh. Okay. We got like antiseptic guy over here. Yikes. Okay, hold on. And we're back. Okay, so I think I found out the problem with everything I was doing. I was trying to use the camera. For two things at once. Okay. Oh, I have a lot of things open. Let me close you. And this button. You guys can't tell what I'm doing, but you guys can listen to me saying button, 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 button. And no, that's okay. Oh, there we go. And there you go. Is everything working? Everything's working just fine. Okay, so gosh, my mouth is so dry. So I'm writing a story. Well, I plan to write a story, as everyone does. But so it's insanely, at least I think it's insanely, oh gosh, I'm being so like, well, I guess I'm wishy-washy. That annoys me. Okay. It's complicated, and because I'm not going to be able to do it before I go on a mission, there's my mouse, I plan on writing down a whole bunch of outlines for my characters so that when I get back after my mission, I can keep working on it. And so I remember where I picked off, because I'm not going to be thinking about this while I'm on a mission. So that's the purpose of writing this. So hopefully I'm going to be able to tell you, explain to you guys part of the story while I write. If I can't tell the story while I write, I'm going to tell you the story more than I write. Hopefully. I don't know. So people like my good friend Will Anderson out there, hopefully he'll watch this and be like, oh, Jacob. I can't do his voice. There's a thing for all of us that do your voice, Will, if you're watching this. None of us are very good at it. People thought we were good at it, but none of us were good at it. So we were trying to, so hopefully you'll be like, good job, Jacob, doing your, I can't see if you see my hand all the way. Yay! I don't have the energy of Jacksepticeye, which is one thing I wish I had. Just be like, yes! I mean, I could do that, but then it'd be hard to write because I'd be punching the air too much. Woo, yeah! Yeah, I love that guy. Okay, not in a gay way. I'm not gonna be like. Okay, so. Okay, so. Oh, okay. Doesn't look like I'm going to the right. How about trying to future component from adventuring and having. It not only prevented him from using extent, but it okay, so it looks like I'm gonna be reading more than writing because just then I tried to be reading and I didn't. I tried to explain my story and I couldn't do all writing. So I'm just gonna be reading. I'm not gonna be reading it, but I'm gonna be talking about it then. Okay, I don't know if this screen cap's gonna actually do anything anymore. Oh well. It's still recording, right? Ooh. Yes, good. I don't want to like stop halfway through because then I'd be like, oh, this work goes to nothing. And that would really stress me out. Okay, so the premise of the story revolves around the fact that the idea of the multiverse. That every single choice you do, there is a different reality where that choice didn't happen. So like choice where I pick up this pencil. There could be a choice where I don't pick up this pencil, or where I use this pencil, or don't use this pencil as an analogy. I use the mouse. Or I use my little piggy bank figure. Or a pocket knife. I mean, now I use all these analogies just now, but it's fine. Hold on, what time is it? Okay. I mean, so that's the idea of the reality. That's the idea of the universe I'm in. And then the universe also follows the premise of heroes. Ooh, excuse me. So there are 7 here. So it follows the story of U.D.H.A.E.C. U.D.H.A.E.C. United Heroes Against Evil and Corruption. The and no one cares about. No one loves you. Go home and just go home and cry. So originally the heroes I was gonna draw manga because at the time I was like, whoa, manga's so cool. I want to write my own characters. I like my art. It's all up there. I'm not gonna be able to. I can't draw that well. I can draw mechanical things. I like to think I can draw mechanical things well. But so I eventually gave up and that went to waste. But I had a whole bunch of other ideas. Like when I was like 1st grade. Don't know what age I'm in 1st grade. Don't know. Oh well. We read a book called Westlandia. Oh my gosh, that book was like the biggest inspiration. And we had to do a project called Landia. I don't know. We had to make our own. It was about a guy named Wes. And made his own culture off this plant he discovered. So basing that off that, we were told to make our own projects, and it was like a form of PowerPoint. It was really funky for 1st grade. It was a lot of fun. We had to do our own project. We had to make our own world, our own language, everything he did. It was a lot of fun. And so that was Jacoblandia. The original idea was it was a bunch of trees covered in scales instead of like his Swift or whatever he calls plants. It's a really good book. You should check it out. If you have read it, good job. If you haven't, go read it. But so mine was a bunch of scaled plants because I thought lizards were really cool. And trees with scales, huh? No one else is gonna think of that. So that's what the original idea was, and then I made up a team of 4 people. This was from, and these characters were from Cartoon Network's Fusion Fall, and I used my 4 heroes I had as the 4 founders of Jacoblandia. It slowly went from a small civilization to an island to a planet out in space. And it's a really, like, I have a huge civilization there, but that's not where the main story takes place. Everyone there is sort of like Argonians, except they have spikes on their head. That was the original guy I made. His name was Reptile Spike. He was cool. I also had Alpha Plasma Shadow, Volt Jewel Void, and Jacob Cylon Warrior. Terribly Sharknado names, I know, but I thought they were so cool. And who was to blame me? I was like, 8? I don't know. Gosh. And so my dad and I, we were planning on writing a story. We had it was like a picture book. The people found it. We had a plot and everything. And it was pretty good. And then it sort of went to the wayside again. So this happened before the anime characters, or the anime characters. And then slowly over time, I started watching Marvel movies, which, who hasn't watched Marvel movies? I don't know which movie it was. I think it was one of the Avenger movies. I wanted to make up my own team of heroes. But because people don't like comics as much, I mean, believe me, I love comics to death, but the rest of society, the intellectual side of society, was all like, no, comics aren't smart. I mean, the school side of society, like the intellectuals, like most intellectuals I've understood like comics. But, so, I wanted to make my own team. That's how it started out. It was, my mouth is so dry. Oh, I hate it out here. That doesn't help. So one of the heroes I made up was number 55. His name's number 55 because you take drill and spell out drill by numbers. Like you take D and that's a 4, R and that's a whatever, 9, I that's a 9. Add them up, you get 55. Or at least I think you do. And so he's this huge lumbering mechanical monster with a huge drill on his right arm and like a 3-handed claw on his right. Left. I know things. Leave me alone. I'm not being very funny. Oh well. I'm doing stand-up comedy tomorrow, hopefully, and hopefully people will laugh at that. I don't know if I'll be able to record it or not, but hopefully people will laugh. Yay me! So, but then things. I didn't know there was going to be 7 heroes. I just wanted a bunch of heroes. I was forced going to bring Alpha Plasma Shadow. She was from Jacoblandia. I brought her in. She's like a ninja. So out of my anime characters, Byron was the character that was going to be based on me because I felt like Iron. I was like, I'm cool, mechanical. I'm not going into mechanical stuff now, but I thought robots were really cool. So he has like super robot abilities. You just throw him into like a pile of scrap and then come back out with like building anything. And he was just like, oh, it wasn't that hard. It's just stuff. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. And so he like builds mechs and stuff and he fights in mechs. He also has really spiky hair, as anime characters do, but he's super laid back and chill. And he's just like, oh, yeah, I guess that's what you do. He's he's very analyzing. Hopefully, I don't know how to write analyzing characters very well because I'm not. I'm generally up in your face like, whoa, look at that. He'll be able to. Okay, you see, that would be a bad thing to do. He doesn't have a beard. Maybe he should have just spiky beard as spiky as his head. Oh yeah, so I based my heroes around things that like represent me because I liked the drills because drills I thought were cool. They just like plow through the ground like shovels, but not shovels. I don't know words. Let's see. Oh yeah, so then after a while, AP Lang came around in class. It wasn't AP Lang, it was English 10. So 10th grade. I had concepts for my heroes in my head for a while. And then we did NaNoWriMo. Oh my gosh. That was stressful. But so I wanted to write about number 55, who I thought was the coolest guy at the moment. So backstory on him: the people who founded, there are two rival companies. Anathema Testing, these are the bad guys. I originally was gonna have these guys be like, it was gonna be like Aperture Science, but a lot eviler. In Aperture Science, there was like Dexter Labs and Mandark from Mandark Industries from Fusion Fall. So I wanted to have my own. Originally it was JLB9 Systems, but then I was like, So, gosh dang, it's so dry. So then, eventually Anathema, because Anathema's hatred. It's like abomination. Anathema. I don't know how to say that word. I say anathema. If you say anathema, I don't. Who's to judge? I'm the only other person who's actually I've ever heard say that word. So, Anathema Testing. They're at the immoral science. We do it because we can. Ha ha. And then over here is Olympus. Another acronym. I like acronyms. They're cool. Like laser and scuba. Oh, it's so dry. So they're over here, and they started with these places have been here for ages. And Olympus started because they've been like in the background, and then they came to the foreground, and Olympus rose because. So there was a guy named Jason, and he's sort of like speed racer, but in the future, in his area, it's like futuristic. It's like it's like motorbikes, but they all have one wheel because the rest of the bike hovers. And so he was originally like a small racer, and then he got big, and he raced against them in a huge turn of events, and eventually overthrew some evil companies under the name of Anathema Testing. And he did it with the help of two people. Howard Hossin is the leader of Anathema Testing, but his daughter, Venna Hossin, hates how corrupt everyone is. And so she's like the love interest of Jason Might. And there's other guy, Orson Venn? Maybe it was Orson Venn. I don't know. Yeah, Orson V. Yeah, okay. Maybe not, because Venna and Venn, that'll... Anyways, he's a huge crusader. He has been fighting against these companies since as long as he's been alive. And so they all race together and they end up winning. And Jason has like dreams, and he gets mentored by these extra-dimensional beings about how to set how to fight Anathema Testing, and it grows up and becomes interdimensional. Inter, trans, pan, all that jazz, not sexual, dimensional. Attack helicopters. Recently I had to explain what a furry was to a friend recently. I'm not a furry, but nor should you ever assume I'm a furry. Just because I have a piggy bank. I'm not a furry. I mean, that doesn't relate, but just because I have a pig doesn't mean I'm a furry. So there's that. Then eventually, over time, Orson just goes missing. Turns out he was being experimented on by Anathema Testing, and was slowly built and turned into into number 55. And he was corrupted, and his mind went crazy because they took his mind and his body and just destroyed them. The robot was programmed with additional bloodlust to corrupt his original personality. So for English 10, way back there, we did NaNoWriMo, and I wanted to write about number 55. So I started writing. I started writing more about the lore. And I thought a whole lot more than this is just a story. What if they have the items stored like the Avengers had theirs? Had their power orbs, their thing Vision has right here. And like the Infinity Gauntlet and all that jazz. So I came up with 8. And it forms a cube. Each with their 4 different realms, and each of them has an opposite thing, forming a solid cube. Well, a sturdy cube, not solid, because it's not infinite amount of space cover, whatever. So the first 2 objects were the sands of constant, and it's sort of a metaphor because sands are always changing, yet sands are always sand. I mean, it comes from rock. It'll eventually become rock again through sandstone, or it could become other rocks through metamorphosis. Not metamorphosis, metamorphic, all that jazz. Or glass. But sand, if it's still a rock, is still sand. Metamorphic, we're not going to talk about that. So then it'll just become sand again. Even still, if it goes metamorphic, it'll still become sand. So it's a metaphor that sands, even though they're always changing, it's always sand. Then there's the change. That sums up pretty well. It's the change. It's sometimes sentient, sometimes not. It's an agent of chaos and just does whatever it wants. Because it can. So those 2 are opposites. There's the creation gel, which is an orange gel, which can be used to create anything. There's the entropic energy. Maybe it's just the entropy or the energy, I forget. Maybe entropic energy. Energy entropic. Tropic energy. Aloha! No, not that type. But I'm a goof. That's like a green energy that can be harnessed. It literally just destroys matter. It's like antimatter, but it's energy. Then there's the spirit of courage, and that's like a sort of sentient. A person is embodied by the spirit of courage, and like the spirit of courage goes into them, and they gain powers and stuff. Yeah. The fear gas, then that's the opposite of the spirit of courage. I got an idea stored from Scarecrow, stored from that Aether from the Dark World Thor thing. I don't know, either way, so it can, like, the person can wield it, and they gain strength as well, and they sort of can control the fear gas, and they know what people fear, and all that jazz. Now, the last 2 are the Rune of Intelligence. It's a rune that can't be destroyed, like, you can erase it. It's sort of sentient, in that even if you like copied it on rune on perfectly, it's the only rune that can exist like that at the time. It can be transferred, but like whatever it's on, something has intelligence and sentience. If it already has sentience, it gains intelligence. And holding things can help you smarter too. I don't know about the gaining sentience part. That's the other thing. And there's the consciousness shard. The conscience shard. Subconscious shard. Don't know. I've never been able to decide that. Haven't been able to decide that thing's name either. It's a purple crystal that embodies consciousness. If you've noticed, each of the 8 things have been a different form as well. I haven't had the same state of matter. Well, I have sand and crystal. Sand's weird. Also, the jealous, whatever. Shush, I've tried. But so number 55, he keeps breaking through his programming. The reason is that he has the consciousness shard inside of him. That's keeping his brain, his old mind alive inside the machine, even though there's the programming and overriding. Gosh, I stutter so much. That's keeping him alive. I was originally going to plan on writing some. I already have a whole lot down. Looks like this last bit. I'm not even going to be posting this last thing. I don't know why I'm recording it anyways. It's just gonna make my video slower. Yeah, I'm not gonna put it on. I'm just gonna end it now. Okay, not gonna put it in. Anyways, so there's that. So that's why he keeps breaking through. And then eventually he escapes alongside Cleopatra, who originally was one of the ones experimenting on him, but then she also was turned into a robot. She's like a sleek, smooth robot. Like, while he's all like huge and lumped up, she's all smooth and sleek. But she can like make weapons, just like her arm just turns into a gun. Or her feet turn into jetpacks or whatever. And so she's based off of Cleopatra, the Queen of Egypt, because it was famous that she tested poisons on people. There's a picture of it, which then you see her dodongos popping out. There is that story, I think on Reddit, of like, I have this new anime idea. This girl comes up, these massive boobies, and then some real tatangas. And it just goes on, but it just gets more and more extreme, which is kind of funny. The way it gets just hopalunga moon, the moon goes. So it's kind of funny because it's gibberish. I really like gibberish, if you couldn't tell. So they escape together and they wander off and they eventually join. Another story of mine, Agnot Clun. He's the conscious. He was the spirit of courage. He died to save it. He sacrificed himself. He was a crusader whose ability was to like reflect damage, but he reflected damage and he reflected his life in between the dimensions, trying to stop an interdimensional demon who was going to devour the dimensions. And so his spirit bonded with the spirit of courage, and it floated into between the dimensions. Not around that time, because there isn't exactly time. Time is relative to this entire thing. So it's my theory with the interdimensional dimensions that traveling through time doesn't exist. You can travel through the dimensions, which is how you travel, but there's the main trunk of the dimension, and there's like all sorts of branches off. And those branches are like the temporal streams. So like traveling through time in a linear direction, but if you want to travel back in time, you can't travel backwards. You travel through a parallel dimension, which is traveling. I don't have another. Well, I do have enough pencils. And then it's like you travel back in time. You want to travel here, but you end up traveling here. So both are point X in time. But to travel back in time, you're traveling not back in time, you're traveling across time to another dimension where that's the same time as the time you're traveling to. So the tips of the pencils are the exact same time. It's just you can't travel backwards, you can travel across. And then what happens in that dimension can alter their other dimensions, that sort of jazz. So in another dimension, Phoebe Hassan, originally not Phoebe Hassan, but originally a sort of crusader. She was like from the ghetto, but she was born with a fear gas, so she fought against anathema testing around with Jason's time, before Jason. But enamored by her power, Howard Hassan beguiled her, captured her, tortured her. May or may not have done unspeakable acts to her innocence as well, because he's a jerk. I'm trying to emphasize how much of a jerk he is. And then he has his personal scientist who's basically taught him the secret of immortality. Similar to traveling through time. It's like you have while everything's traveling forwards, you also have your body traveling across the dimensions and backwards. in time. So your body, while everything's going forward, you're sort of just remaining neutral. And so that's how he discovered immortality. So he tested, that's Xenojus See, he discovered immortality, and he experimented on Phoebe Hassan, named Phoebe sort of being off fear, like phobia, because she has the fear gas. So that's what I gave her that, because I like meanings like that. So, hold up. I'm just going to... There we go. So, he tortured her, pretty much killed her. And then her soul also mixed with the fear gas, and they entered the dimensions. And then Agnok, Clan, and Phoebe, they merged to make U.D.H.A.E.C. His name sort of being like Twilight, and like Yin and Yang, and try to make his name sound cool. Sound ancient as well. So they mixed all that together, and they became one being. And he's like a super sentient being. He's sort of like Vision. It's like he's super powerful, but because he is one of the 8-dimensional relics that can control the dimensions, that can use to create or destroy the dimensions. But he willingly doesn't use all that power, otherwise he would be able to destroy the dimensions. Let's see. The sand's a creation that becomes absorbed into Jacob the Conjurer, and he uses the sand to conjure, not sort of imbue life. He can imbue life into things and summon them and have them work for him. And he's made of sand. So he's been not exactly cursed, but he can't die either. So let's see. I've had Byron Ekic, that's his full name. Alpha Plasma Shadow. So she also came from the same lab that number 55 did. She was originally another person, and she got experimented on also by Xenojus Titanov. And then around this time, so I'll explain about Titanov later, he went with Alpha and a bunch of other people to Jacob Landy. They discovered it, and Jacob just left because he felt guilty. But so she's with them. Jacob the Conjurer, U.D.H.A.E.C. Who else was there? Oh, there's Metronome. So originally he was gonna be he's sort of like the pink-haired kid from One Piece, if that makes any help to any of you. He had the power to, like, someone balls beneath his feet so he can skate, but he has heart problems, so he couldn't do that. And these marauders took over his town. So I'll start over. He lives in sort of a D&D style village, so there's magic and monsters and all that sort of stuff. And marauders and treasure hunters took over his town and were, like, collecting taxes and being huge jerkwads. Around this time, so they were using a power, but the power got taken away interdimensionally because other things are happening at the same time. Interdimensionally, the orb is actually being used. It's one of the fragments of a huge interdimensional demon that was summoning all the orbs, which Agnok the Clan destroyed, and that's only one fraction. It's like only a fraction of how intertwined this thing is. So because they lose their power, Metronome's able to scare them off. He then wants to go off and join the military so he can, like, fight against all the treasure hunters and marauders start ruining the world. So he joins up with, he wants to leave, but then the minute he leaves, he ends up joining it, ends up getting captured by another bandit group. And they ends up working for them for a while until the good treasure hunting group, sort of like Luffy and the gang, I guess, they end up saving him, kidding him into the military, and then they leave. And that's the end of Metronome's background. His story actually isn't about him. His story represents my like of music, and my sort of not depression. He goes, oh, I don't have depression because I'm not. Depression's weird. But so he ends up getting a thing called a relic called the Beatbox, which, although it controls his heart rate, it gives him the ability to summon any weapon ever that can change, but music's always playing in his heart, in his mind. So he always moves to that music. So that's what he does. He skates into music with, like, and his weapon changes depending on the music. He's cool. And Xenojus Titanov, his idea came from watching Big Hero 6. I had a dream about a 4-armed mechanical skeleton that could summon a light shield and he was like, could never die. So, and the light shield couldn't be broken by things. It's like, hey, that'd be cool. That'd be like my dream if I was like Big Hero 6, science, math, cool, biotechnology, 4 arms, that jazz. So he did that's his trademark. He was an old scientist, but then due to his exposure to like things like the consciousness shard, he ended up realizing what he was doing was bad, so he stopped. Other things. Oh yeah, then he felt really guilty, so he ended up leaving and turning himself into a mechanical skeleton rather than just a person with an extra pair of biotic arms. But so he would try to condemn himself forever and turn himself into his own monster because he felt terrible, and like he tore his skin off and a whole bunch of stuff. His skin later became alive and continued his experiments, and he fought against it later. But so then Synergist joins up with them also, and he doesn't like to fight. And so the group travel through the dimensions and have their own wacky adventures. Another thing, so it's sort of like the anime manga thing, Tsubasa. I thought it was so cool how Tsubasa and XXX Holic, it's not like what it's about, what it sounds. It's like wizard people, and it's not inappropriate, unlike its name sounds. But it's actually really cool. Like, the people travel through the dimensions, finding out for these fragments, and they're all like interdimensional. Anyways, it's really cool. So that's sort of based it off as well. And I think that's about it for now. I'm going on to the 35-minute mark, which is a bit long for just me explaining the background, a quick background of my characters. Actually, it's not very long. Like if I try to explain the whole thing, I could go on to like a good 3 hours going into depth with each character, which that's not gonna happen today. So because it's late. So, anyways, that's the end of my ramble. I don't know if my catchphrase works here, but why not as well say it anyways. If you laughed at me, or you laughed with me, if you laughed at all, I did my job. Magmetude, out.